Welcome all. It's draft night again on Primetime Mock, the show where we bring you a different industry draft with guests from all over the fantasy community every week. I'm the host of this draft party, Mark Shu, and as always, I got my buddy Shuey here. Shuey, what's going on, man? Shuey, you with me? Oh, he's on mute. Grandpa Shu.
Grandpa Shu.
Gotcha. There we go. Wrong mic was picked. I don't know why StreamYard always switches my audio input after we log out from call to call.
What's going on, Shuey?
Not too much, man. Just really repping my Orioles here today, rocking that double-digit win streak. So nice to see some baseball teams here in Baltimore finally getting back into the hot streak. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing really well. We're really excited around here, as you know. We'll get to that in a minute. We got this quarterback draft kicking off, and it looks like our buddy Burner has joined us. Burner, what's going on, man?
How's it going, fellas? Happy to be here. It's been a minute since I've been on live stream, but here I am, ready to have some fun, ready to make it happen.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were ready for you last week. We missed you, but that's all right. You know, we're always having a good time.
Sometimes life just catches up with you, man. What can you do?
Hey, what can you do? But all you can do is have fun. That's why we have fun here on Primetime Mock every single week. But before we get into this quarterback draft, we are really excited to announce the return of fantasy football. And if you don't know what that is, I'm just going to let this video explain it for you.
Need something. It can't be Murray. It can't be Ertz. We win!
Put your season-long fantasy football and DFS skills to the ultimate test in Fantasy Football, a reality competition.
I love this league.
Fantasy football is the truth. It's by far my favorite fantasy league.
It's so much fun to combine fantasy football with daily fantasy, with season-long fantasy, with traditional bets, with prop bets. The format of this has just been spectacular.
This league is so engaged based on the format. The feeling of let's load up and let's go on the attack is crazy. The energy is so fantastic.
22 contestants will be selected to join the league and compete for immunity.
Hurts just hit Quest for a 2-point conversion. We're taking down that immunity showdown.
Back to back.
Your boy won immunity this week. Let's go.
To avoid being dropped,
Josh Allen goes for it on a sneak on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, and he misses. And that's my season.
It's over. It's over.
to be the best.
Forget top 5. I was the top nerd of the week.
Woo! That's 2 weeks in a row. Top nerd.
We're top nerd. Got him.
And to take down the $5,000 prize.
Where have all the tight ends gone? Where have all the tight ends gone? Jesus!
There's some serious trash talking going on, man. All this nonsense trash talk. I've been minding my business the whole time.
There was a bar just right around the corner from my hotel. Little did I know, Aces is a New York Giants bar.
So come live your best fantasy life and show us what you've got this season on Fantasy Football, a reality competition.
You excited? Yeah, let's go. She says, let's go. Let's go.
All right. So, Fantasy is back. We are coming with our second season, the ultimate DFS and reality competition. For those of you who haven't played or have never seen it, the way the concept sets up is on Thursday nights, we play for immunity in a DFS showdown. You play the rest of your week through the gauntlet. Your Monday night scores do not count because we need to have a Monday night eliminator. So all you draft a team that plays through Sunday night, and then the lowest scores get sent to the eliminator on Monday, and they play DFS to see who goes home. This is our second season. Last year was a bit of a pilot, and we actually have a few people from last year's show coming back. First of all, our reigning champion, Jim Nastic, the Gold Jacket QB. Jim, what's going on, my man?
Hey, what's happening? Glad to be a part of this. Yeah, that was a fantastic league. That was probably one of the most fun leagues I've ever been a part of. Finally paid off to be stumbling into the bedroom, watching the wife watch Survivor, and the big brothers and all that, because the psychology definitely came into play. Loved it. I love the Thursday night DFS immunity. I loved the having to think about Monday night. Doesn't really count to your weekly scores. Whole thing was absolutely nuts, man. Like it was nuts. Just you want to sign up for this league. This is probably going to be the most fun league that you're ever going to compete in. Guaranteed.
And Jim, you put up one hell of an effort to get yourself all the way through to week 18. Never made it into an eliminator. Almost, was top nerd a lot of the time. It was just a great run, and I hope you'll come back and defend your title, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna time.
All right. As long as you get someone you like. The third round reversal got him. We told him about it. The third round reversal got him. That's all right.
You are.
All right, but let's move over to Alex Matteo. Alex, last year you predicted Jalen Hurts would be a QB1 on this show. Do you have any spicy takes you got coming for us today?
Let me rephrase. I didn't say a QB1. I said the QB1. Not the QB1. And before that ankle injury, week 11, I was sitting pretty. But unfortunately, I did not get the last laugh there. But as you can tell, I had to go my guy Jalen again. And I guess my spicy take is Kirk Cousins is more likely to be a top 7 quarterback than Aaron Rodgers this year.
Ooh. Wow. I mean, can you go a little farther in depth on that one?
Yeah, so the Vikings, they completely revamped their entire philosophy. They brought in Kevin O'Connell from the Rams, their old offensive coordinator. Justin Jefferson had already come out and said it's going to be more pass-oriented. Same thing with Kirk Cousins. They're going to be able to run that offense similar to what McVay wanted to do. Now, am I saying Kirk Cousins is Matt Stafford good? No, not quite. But he has so much talent around him that there's a good chance he'll set that career high in yards and touchdowns this year. Someone said, hey, Kirk Cousins throws for 4,538 touchdowns. I would not be shocked in the slightest bit.
Yeah, and I love the weapons that he's got there. He's obviously going to be passing it off to Dalvin Cook, to Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen is still going to be, he's still going to be a first down chain mover, good route runner, and he'll do his thing. We like KJ Osborne. I actually still, have a little faith in this Amir Smith-Marset, and if they're going to open up the offense, why can't he score a few hundred yards? Craig's laughing at me. Craig's laughing at me over there. Can't forget about Irv Smith. It's hard to put it down onto paper, but I can't say that I disagree with you. All right, let's move on over to another second timer here. Josh Valentin from the Real Fantasy Timeline. Josh, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you guys doing today?
Oh, we're doing well, The Scott Fishbowl has me obsessed with quarterbacks right now, so this is right on time for me.
Yeah, I didn't get either one of my Scott Fishbowl quarterbacks, but I like this team so far. I like my Scott Fishbowl, so.
I was saying before the show, the third round reversal was pretty good to me. I ended up with Kyler at 110, and at the third round, I was able to get Trey Lance at 303. So I'm feeling pretty good about my quarterbacks there this year. It was not the case last year with Lamar. I had Lamar. Lamar was fine, but I never knew how to Scott Fishbowl draft, and I waited way too long. So I'm hoping for a better one this year. We'll see how that one goes. I like my chances. I hope all of you are having great Scott Fishbowl drafts as well. Let's move over to my man Coach Craig from the JC Money and Coach Craig Sports Show. You are also on Fantasy Football Reality Competition, and I believe we helped birth that JC Money and Coach Craig Sports Show that you're on now. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Yesterday was a pretty rough day. I had some bad food and everything, but that's one of the many things that I'm on right now. There's about 5 different things. If you look on my Scott Fishbowl thing, it lists everything out. So it's like, if I add anything more, I don't think it's going to fit.
That's right. Well, you could also put on fantasy football DFS expert, because I feel like you won damn near half of them along with Shuey on the tail end of that season.
I got second a lot. That's the most frustrating part in the world.
Yeah, well, hey, DFS is like that, my friend.
Yep.
And we had your buddy.
Once again, gymnastics screws me.
Yes.
Just like last year in fantasy football.
And finally, we've got... Finally, from the Gillette Gazette, we've got Tyler Lamb. Tyler, what's going on, man?
How we doing, man? I'm doing pretty good. It seems like your Scott Fishbowl team and my draft here have coincided a little bit. I got Kyler Murray and Trey Lance as well.
I love it. Let's take it. I hope it's you and me at the end.
Yeah, for real. I think that, what's it called? Either one of those quarterbacks could honestly finish as the QB1 this year, realistically. There's a lot less on paper or on the field for Trey Lance, but Kyler Murray could just somehow figure out how to play a full season of, good quarterback. He'd be up there already. So.
All right, guys, we are talking quarterback here. So the first thing I like to look at is the top. I think I took Josh Allen. I don't think anybody has any argument with that. Does anyone have any real argument for the number one spot beyond Josh Allen right now? And if anybody would like to make that case, I'd love to open the floor.
The only person
Go ahead.
The only person I can see being a case for that is Herbert, just for the weapons that he has. He has arguably the best skilled position group in the league surrounding him, one of the best offensive lines. They're going to be throwing the ball early and often. Brandon Staley showed he's not afraid to air it out no matter what. I would still go Josh Allen over Herbert, but if there's someone who you can argue for over him, it is Herbert.
Well, I think that kind of pushes us into that next tier. I agree that he's one of them. For me, though, that guy is Lamar with the extra rushing. I think that he still has an MVP season in him, 1,000-yard rushing season. I think that while his passing numbers will go down, I actually think he's going to have a much more efficient year as a passer than he has before. So I feel really good about him in my second tier. Herbert, Lamar, Kyler, Patrick Mahomes, Hurts, Joe Burrow. Is that about the second tier? That would be my gold tier. Consider it for the top, a top 4 player in fantasy. Is that where we all kind of consensus those next 5-6 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Wait, where'd you put Hurts?
Hurts is right there.
I have consensus. I don't think he has the job security. That's my biggest issue. You're going to be taking a quarterback there that I don't think has job security beyond this year.
I think he go to another team and start right away.
Yeah, I would say so. Especially
then I'm playing ifs and buts though.
I mean, we're still playing him. He's starting right now.
But okay. So, but what I'm saying is, okay, so just in this particular draft right now, I would take Joe Burrow hands down over him based on his weapons and job security. I would take Matt Stafford. I get the grunt, but listen, I'm not playing for 10 years. I'm playing for 1 to 3.
No,
you tell me Matt Stafford can't produce the exact same amount of fantasy points for 1 to 3 years as Jalen Hurts, and he definitely has the job security.
To me, Matt Stafford is Ezekiel Elliott of quarterbacks. He's going to get you that steady points, but it's not going to be sexy. Last year he was the QB6, I'm pretty sure, but he had 2 weeks of being inside the top 5 QBs. Jalen Hurts gives you that ceiling, at least for this year. I understand next year is a bit of a cloudy, but you just said you're playing for 1 to 3 years. If you want to win now, you could figure out your next moves after that.
I guess, but I mean, when I play for the 1 to 3, I want my quarterback to have that security for the 1 to 3. That's not a position I'm looking to looking to get at once, especially if I'm going that high. Like if I'm taking Hurts where I got to be taking him, I don't know. That's my only argument against him. It's not an argument against the talent or anything like that. It's more an argument against really the Philadelphia fan base and management and management just willing to fold them.
Jim, let me ask you this.
So,
I'll say, Jim, for 2022, where do you put Hurts? Just for 2022 in like a redraft perspective.
Probably in like the 9 to 12 range.
So you're still taking Stafford over him.
Pretty low.
All right, so we're not going to talk about Jalen Hurts. Oh, we're not going to talk about
No,
Jalen Hurts all
I could
night.
talk the entire show about Hurts.
I know, yeah. Well, that's what I'm afraid of, Alex. So we're gonna move it on. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting Jalen Hurts in that sort of ambiguous space between that gold tier, which we call a top 4 candidate here on Primetime Fantasy Network, and a silver tier, which is a top 16. Although he would be right at the top of that top 16 candidates for me at the very least for this year. Moving on, actually, before we go ahead, and we all know that the allegations against Deshaun Watson and all of that are horrible, and if they're true, that's, we condemn them, and that's horrible. But if everything is clear and in the clear, are we putting Deshaun Watson in that gold tier?
As far as talent, yeah.
As far as football talent is concerned, and I don't want to go any further into any of that other stuff because again, I think we've at this point we've been beaten to death with it, and we really I hope that justice is found at this point. Really, whatever that is, that justice is found. But because we're talking quarterbacks, and we're not going to talk about him again. Deshaun Watson is still a talent up at the top there if he comes around. Moving into the second tier, our top 16 candidates. Who are players that who are some players maybe in our mid to late teen rankings that have the potential to pop themselves into the top 12? Do we have any candidates for that? I'd like to open up the floor if anybody has one.
Zach Wilson.
Ooh.
Was that Alex?
What's wrong with that?
They have done everything right this offseason.
I agree.
They addressed the offensive line even more. They brought in Tomlinson from the 49ers. They took another receiver in the top 10 in Garrett Wilson. They moved up for Breece Hall. Elijah Moore should be healthy. They're doing everything in their power to put him in the position for the most fantasy success. Even if the Jets are a dumpster fire of a team again, which I don't think they will, that means more negative game script for Zach Wilson, more pass attempts, more garbage time late in the game. He can have a 5-win season and put up Blake Bortles numbers when him and Allen Robinson went absolutely nuclear. Like, that is in his realistic range of outcomes for this year.
I agree with that, Alex, but I feel like, unfortunately for me, Blake Bortles makes it really tough, a really tough sell. If we're talking top range, that Blake Bortles year, which was great. I mean, I lost the championship to Blake Bortles. But yeah, it's a really ugly way to get there, especially when you're playing in that garbage time, because ultimately that player would have to have been so bad, that they're in garbage time.
But it's top 12 for Dynasty. I wouldn't take him top 12, but for this season, he has a chance to be a top 12 guy. I should have clarified that a little more.
And yeah, no, I like that as a QB sleeper or a guy you have as like a late round. What is his early schedule like, Alex? Do you know what that is?
Let me pull that up real quick.
While we go on, does anybody else have a mid QB2 borderline that you think can jump into the top 12?
I mean, there's the obvious one, Trey Lance. Just do the rushing upside.
Yeah.
I was going to say Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I really like them going and getting what's it called? Doug Peterson, Dougie P. He's had a good history of building up quarterbacks. They went and got Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. I mean, it's not the big, sexy additions, but those are NFL wide receivers. It's not who'd they have out there last year instead of
LaVisca Chenault.
Yeah, instead of LaVisca Chenault, they had Treadwell and they had not
Jamal
Tavon
Agnew.
Austin, but like
Jamal Agnew.
yeah, Jamal Agnew. It's like those
He's
aren't
good.
NFL wide receivers.
Yeah, they're taking the Jags are doing it right too. They're taking swings at the right positions to help their young quarterback. It might not be the swings we would have done, but they are taking the right swings.
They gave Christian Kirk way too much money, but it's okay.
Oh yeah. And as an Eagle fan, I thank them for that.
And they got ETN back this year too.
Yeah,
he's a big factor in the receiving game.
They put Brandon Scherf on the line. They are trying to do something.
Yeah, they're making the right types of moves for sure.
I mean, it's the perfect post-hype sleeper in my mind. Like everybody and their mother was on Trevor Lawrence last year. He was the consensus #1 overall quarterback, and he has a bad year with freaking Urban Meyer going and assaulting women at his own bar,
And his
that
kicker.
whole kicking his kicker, that whole dysfunctional organization there. I mean, like, if his coaching is at least somewhat normal, he should have a much better year.
So if the Urban Meyer regime is sort of like a stomach bug, Craig, you might have some experience with this. We would say that the Doug Peterson regime would be something like a fiber pill that we're giving him to just get him back on track, get him regular, get him feeling like he's back to his old self.
Yeah, like something like that.
And speaking even more on Doug Peterson, when he came to Philly, mind you, that was right at the end of the Chip Kelly chaos.
Yeah.
Where Chip then got rid of Deshaun, Shady, Macklin.
Mike Vick was there, right?
Yeah, Vic was there the first 2 years. And then everything went down the drain the third year with Chip there. So Doug came in amidst the end of the chaos. A college coach making his first trip in the NFL. It's a very eerie situation. Young quarterback needs to develop, putting the right pieces around him. So I really do like that Lawrence pick as well, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of these guys that we've been talking about are my super flex QB2 target. Do we have any other QB2 targets we're going for in super flex, especially since we're prioritizing the position in that regard? I think one we haven't talked about is Jameis specifically. While he's not going to be the guy, he's going to still probably throw some interceptions, but I'm really hoping that they're going to rein him in and keep him on that efficient track. I really like the addition for him with Olave. I think Michael Thomas is really being slept on still, even though he's been gone for 2 years. He is still a great receiver, and there are going to be options. Kamara is more and more every day looking like that he's gonna skirt this suspension until next year. So with all that considered, it makes me start to feel like Jameis might be a guy that you can use to keep yourself in the mix at QB2.
He's basically free at this point too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Nobody wants Jameis, and for everything you said, Olave, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, even Jarvis Landry, they have Adam Troutman there. They're gonna want to pass the ball at least a little bit more than last year. They haven't filled that RB2 spot yet, and they don't want to give Kamara all those touches in between the tackles. So somebody's gonna have to benefit.
Burner, I haven't heard from you. You got a QB2 that you like?
Oh, absolutely. Somebody that I think could potentially work their way to the top 12 sneakily. Tua. Man, with everything that Miami has done, with all the weapons that he has around him, they shipped off 6-year breakout Devontae Parker. They brought in Tyreek Hill. I'd call that an upgrade. They have about 17 decent running backs to rotate through. Gesicki's going to play on the franchise tag. I mean, this is going to be a make or break year for Tua. I really believe that, and I think he makes it.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like that.
I don't know how he gets to the top 12 though. Like, how does he get to top 12 with the run heavy offense?
It might not be that run heavy. It might be all short passes or behind the line of scrimmage. but they might not be able to run the football like that. Like
Mhm.
their offensive line isn't that good. It's not what the 49ers had for sure. So,
But at the
I mean,
same time, the 49ers scheme loves to run the ball inside the 5.
Totally
He's not going
agree.
to throw the ball down in the goal line, so he's not going to get the touchdown. So he's not going to have the upside, and he doesn't have the rushing upside either.
So the one thing with Tua that really entices me to pick him, especially at his current value, the back that they spent the most money on and most asset towards, Chase Edmonds, who's historically been a prolific pass catching back. So they might not necessarily go with that same zone run scheme that Shanahan did in San Fran, mostly because of the personnel. It seemed like they're trying to cater to the way Tua plays within that 5 to 8 yards off the line, being able to get those quick throws and let his playmakers make the play. Tua could realistically be bottom half of the league in ADOT, the average distance per target, but still have like 5 or 6 like 50-yard plus touchdowns because he throws a slant and Waddle or Tyreek go the other 55 yards with it.
Yeah, the yak ability on that team is really insane. Even Edmonds and Gesicki too. They're both really good after the catch. But I totally agree with you about like the touchdown upside and the rushing upside. Like he'd have to be really, really, really efficient with pretty much every throw he made to reach top 10. But he's as long as he has a good season, he's a surefire quarterback too.
All right, guys. So now we're moving out of QB2 land and into the muck, into the trash here. Looking at the bottom back end of quarterback roster. I don't even really. I mean, we can talk about the Baker Mayfield trade, but I don't even want to. Is anybody really targeting Baker at this moment?
As a QB3, I would be okay with it. Probably
like as a depth piece, but you sort of hope to God you don't play him.
After the trade, I still was able to get him in the 16th round. That's what you want at that point, a quarterback who can be a starter if you need him to.
Sure. Yeah. So beyond a guy who, sorry, Jim, go ahead. So beyond a guy like Baker, oh, sorry, I thought it was Jim. So beyond Baker, a guy like that who can be your QB3, your depth piece in a super flex league, let's take a look at some of these guys who are maybe not projected to start, who are maybe one injury away, who have the talent up top. I see, Shuey, you sniped me with Tyler Huntley, and I knew you were going to do it. Talk about Huntley, because I mean, you're the resident Ravens fan here. Go ahead and talk about Huntley a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Huntley fits that backup role to Lamar perfectly. He's mobile. He can get the quick passes off. He's not gonna win a game for you in the NFL, but fantasy-wise, he's a running machine. He's proven that he can run the ball, and he's proven that he can put points up on the board last year when he was filling in for Lamar. So if Lamar, for God forbid, gets hurt again this year, fingers crossed he doesn't, Huntley is a serviceable QB2 to come in there with that rushing upside.
Yeah, I love that one. He's my dynasty QB stash. You know, he's my back end QB in dynasty that I'm always looking to see. There was a time earlier this year where I thought that he might actually be offered a contract and get a starting job. I mean, the back end of these quarterback rosters. I mean, you're telling me Seattle couldn't use a guy like Tyler Huntley?
No, they have Geno Smith. He's the future.
Get out of here, Geno Smith. And I took Geno Smith. Get out of here with Geno Smith. Circling back,
anyway.
That's right. Yeah, that's probably right too. So Garoppolo's not a bad. Garoppolo's a pretty good target. Burner took Garoppolo. I like that. I also saw kind of a few of those rookie third round quarterbacks, and Kenny Pickett and all. Kenny Pickett and those boys all made it around the back end, fourth and fifth round. Does anyone have any real faith that we're going to get some starts out of these players in the early part of the season?
No.
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 Not unless
Yeah, I was holding
Early.
Unless Pittsburgh starts off like 1-4.
I could
But still,
see
even
Willis
still, you're
start.
going to see him. You're going to see Mitch for at least the first 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
And then at that point, why are you going to throw your rookie that needs work to the Wolves when Mitch is giving you a great draft pick?
Mhm.
Either way, it doesn't work for the advantage of him. You know what I mean? Like, keep him behind the curtain, get the better draft pick, or are you stupid and want like the 18? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense for him to start this year. But I don't know. That's me. I'm not a scout or a GM, right? So like, I just play fantasy.
I
and
could
shitty
see a
job of it.
situation where like Willis starts if like the Titans have a really bad like first 5-6 games and Tannehill looks like he did in that Bengals game or the second half of that Bengals playoff game, just throwing it to linebackers. Like I could see that. It's real short of a chance though. I mean, most of these guys.
How are they explaining the money to Tannehill that they got wrapped in him though? He becomes the most expensive bench warmer. He makes Chase Daniel look like shameful man for his career.
But this is
what he does
the
because that's a
last
lot of
year.
money.
But this is the last year that Tannehill has any guaranteed money on the contract. So if they're like Tyler said, getting cooked early on, and let's say it looks like Matt Ryan and the Colts are going to run away with that division early on. If I'm the Titans,
let's just say,
what do you have to lose?
Mike Vrabel's making a change.
What do they have to lose? If I'm them, if they start off slow, this is Tannehill's realistic.
I don't know. They're still paying him like it's still 19 million dead cap next year, 2023. They got still a 20. They got almost $20 million dead cap. That's not it's not chunk change to just be chucking away at Ryan Tannehill. That's a lot of money. He's going to be a Titan next year, 2023.
And honestly,
I'll guarantee you that.
Tannehill got him to the 1 seed in the AFC last year. I can't imagine even starting off 1-4 that Vrabel just goes, let's hook it up to the 3rd round developmental quarterback that we took and see if he can get us back in the thick of things. I think he'll ride it out with Tannehill because, I mean, obviously the league was not as high on Malik Willis as fantasy people were, and that includes the Tennessee Titans because they had 3 opportunities to take him, and they decided not to. So
no, that is fair.
Definitely a small percentage chance.
Yeah,
with that contract, if they release him post June, so let's say he absolutely flames out this year, and they release him June 2nd, 2023, they are able to distribute that $18 million over each of the next 2 years, and it would only be a $9 million dead cap each year, and it would save them $27 million on the cap next year.
The money magician.
If he completely bottoms out, it isn't the most insane thing.
What about it's 18 over 3 years then?
It would be over 2
not
years.
gonna get
20. It'd be 9 on 2023 and then 9 on 2024.
See, I think he's on 2023, and they're just going to cut him for 9 and 2024 regardless.
Yeah,
that's me.
Also an option for sure.
For sure.
So, I think there's only 2 rookie quarterbacks who are going to end up starting this year at some point. It's going to be Kenny Pickett, and Desmond Ridder is going to start by week 10. Because Marcus Mariota has a very long injury history. We know what Marcus Mariota is. He's a guy that completes 8-yard passes and runs around. And that offensive line is still pretty bad, so he's got a higher chance of getting hurt as well. And the Falcons are literally playing for nothing, and they have to get Ridder in to see if he's anything before they try to take a quarterback, probably number 1 overall, which probably going to happen either way. But, you get in there and he comes out and he plays like Davis Mills, and you say, oh, well, maybe we got something, and then you can take a different player there. But they're going to give him the test. I don't see Malik Willis playing at all this year just because Derrick Henry is going to keep them competitive enough. And Malik Willis is out there looking like Jordan freaking Love in practice. So,
yeah, I could see in its own weird way, I could see a lot of these QBs just ruining fantasy value for the starter ahead of them, and almost in an committee style way. where with a guy like Ritter and Marcus Mariota, I could see them splitting snap. I could see a lot of these guys, especially since they have all these incumbent quarterbacks that actually have like nothing to their name really. That there's going to be a lot of committee work and a lot of working through problems on a lot of these teams. And I hate to say it because we want people to have high scoring teams in fantasy and quarterbacks to score touchdowns and us to know who those quarterbacks are. But I swear it's been happening a little bit more every year for the past like 2 years. And the starters that are on some of those bottom 4 teams, on Seattle, on Carolina, on who am I missing here? On Pittsburgh. You can see a lot of them. You could see a lot of sharing for all we know. And that's my biggest fear with these guys, to be honest. Well, once they weren't taken in the first round, that actually became more of a fear for me than any of them starting or supplanting. It's really them just sucking away because the teams that drafted them ultimately know the quarterbacks they have aren't it.
Very good point, I think. Yeah.
We're having a great time here on Primetime Mock. It's about time to go over our teams. These teams mean nothing because we're not playing out the league. Maybe we should. But really just going through the fantasy value that we were able to pick up in this draft off of the quarterback position. I'm going to start with Josh Allen. We've already said full stop. He's the 101 quarterback. Again, came back around once we got into that silver tier for me, those top 16 candidates. I immediately took Deshaun Watson and said, okay, I'd try and find another one on the way back. Matt Ryan came to me in the 3rd round. I love that. I love that he's got a strong offensive line behind him. Michael Pittman, I like seeing. I mean, God, if you have another Paris Campbell tweet, that I'm gonna just lose it. But I'm really excited about that. Him having a strong running back in Jonathan Taylor to really help keep first downs coming and get him into the red zone. Daniel Jones, the rushing upside. If we took Watson out of it, I'd take my top 3. I guess Josh Allen really makes it easy, but I'd take my top 3 against many of the other top 3s that were drafted here. And then my sleepers, I really liked Sam Howell when he was coming through the quarterback prospect. I thought there was a moment where he might have been taken by Detroit at the end of the first round. And I really don't have a lot of confidence in Wentz. I think that they're obviously going to try and give it a try, but Washington's going to Washington, and all things are going to go south, and they will probably be still looking for a quarterback next year, and Sam Howell will get to see it. So if we're looking at all those other ones, I might as well take the latest one that I still kind of like. And then Geno Smith, because I had to. He was a 6th-round starting quarterback. I'm out. Josh, go ahead and give me your draft.
All right, so Justin Herbert, we talked about it before. I think he is one of maybe 2 or 3 guys that could take over Josh Allen as QB1. Kirk Cousins, I think that guy is criminally underrated by most of the community. We hate him because he's not flashy, but he's just good. New coaching staff in there from the Los Angeles Rams, so I have a feeling that they're going to throw just a little bit more than Zimmer ground and pound offense that they've had for the last few years. Then I went with Ryan Tannehill. I think he got kind of a bum rap because the last thing we saw with him was terrible. I mean, just straight out terrible. But over the course of the season, I think he was a pretty good quarterback, and I don't mind getting him as my 3rd quarterback. Baker Mayfield, I think the coach, Matt Rule, is going to just throw him out there and try to win as many games as possible with Baker Mayfield, and I think that's going to include a lot of throwing. And let's face it, Baker Mayfield is going to have maybe the best weapon he's ever had in DJ Moore. Christian McCaffrey, I don't bank on him staying healthy, but I hope he does. If he can stay healthy for 12 to 14 games, that's, 2 monster weapons all of a sudden that he had, he didn't have that level of talent in Cleveland. Jordan Love, we got to that point in the draft where we were just like, all right, who's left? Mark,
no judgments in these last 2 rounds, Josh. No judgments.
Mark, you mentioned it. I was hoping that Huntley would fall to me. Shuey took him. So, Mark, I'm sorry you wouldn't have gotten him even if Shuey didn't take him because I had Huntley lined up. And Gardner Minshew, look, we're in that backup territory. And if anything happens to Jalen Hurts injury-wise, I think Gardner Minshew is going to be fine out there with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. So why not take a guy on an offense where you like kind of all the other weapons in there? So that is my squad.
I love it. Although I think Odell Beckham would have something to say about the best receiver that Baker's ever played with.
Not maybe New York Giants Odell, but Cleveland Odell was not what Carolina DJ Moore has been.
Maybe that
either way, let's hope DJ Moore's dad is not posting videos of him being open to. We don't want any. We just don't want none of that.
No, we don't.
All right, Chewy, go ahead. Give us your draft. A Lamar, not surprised. Go ahead. Oh, you muted again. You're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
StreamYard keeps telling me my mic got unplugged and it mutes me and switched me to my other headset. But everyone knew I was taking Lamar. A little bit of a homer pick. I think with the rushing upside there that Lamar is in line for another MVP type season like he was a couple years ago. We're not going to throw the ball as much as we did last year. He's going to get a lot more rushing attempts, a lot more efficient offense. So I'm looking forward to watching him this year. Second round, I took Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is one of those guys that's in that 12 to 15 range based off of last year, but can really make that jump into the top 10. He was number 5 in passing attempts last year, number 5 in passing yards. But where he lacked in his scoring was in passing touchdowns. He was number 13 with 23. I think with the addition of Devontae Adams, that this could be a monstrous offense and a monstrous duo there. They do have that chemistry coming out from Fresno State from back in college. Third round had Zach Wilson. Like we talked about earlier, the Jets added weapons for him with Garrett Wilson, and they're trying to keep the ball in his hands and let him sling it around. Dude's got a cannon. I really liked him last year coming out of BYU, and I think with a year of growth, year of maturity, I think that he can really be a solid quarterback too going into this year. Next round, I took Wentz. Hate to pick Wentz. Was between him and Davis Mills there, but I have so much Wentz as my quarterback too, just from where it fell last year. But I mean, he's got some weapons over there. He's got Terry McLaurin. He's got a couple running backs that can catch the ball. If Curtis Samuel gets healthy, he's a good target too. But I mean, he can be relevant. I mean, everyone thought Carson Wentz was horrible last year. He was quarterback 13 last year in scoring, so he wasn't horrendous. He can do it. It's not pretty. And then next 2 picks, Huntley, talked about him earlier. Lamar 2.0 when he's in there. Maybe Lamar 1.5, not quite as good. And then lastly, Heineke. If Wentz is to go down and Washington is semi-competitive, I think they're going to put Heineke in there instead of Howell. I mean, he showed last year that he can keep them in a game and be competitive. And the dude he's got a competitive head on him. He came into that. Was that last year or the year before he came into that Tampa Bay game and made it really exciting?
Oh, the playoff game. Yeah, that was 2020 playoffs. It was there. It was literally ago. Tampa's biggest challenge on the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, kid's competitive, and given the chance, I think he can turn some heads and make it really competitive for that starting spot there if it comes down to it.
I don't know, Shuey. With guys like that, for me, it feels like when they have that year, they have that chance. Like
that's it.
I think that's it. For me,
when I say make it competitive, I think if something happened to Wentz, it'd be competitive between him and Howell, and I think Heineke will get the edge there.
Like okay. So if they're like a playoff team, that's they need a backup. Wentz goes down. They're like they're 10 and
right.
2.
If they're semi-competitive or need to make a push, and God forbid something happens to Wentz, then I think he's going to have to be their guy.
I could see that scenario for sure, but I guess my thoughts are that's not going to be.
I was looking here and I was looking at if any of these guys get on the field, I think that he can be a solid bye week fill-in.
Yeah, I like that. And you got Wentz. If this was a dynasty team, you just slide him right in.
No, I didn't do that on purpose either. I swear.
All right, Tyler's next here in the draft. Tyler, go ahead and give us your draft.
See, I think I took Kyler over Patrick Mahomes just like because of a little bit of the recency with Kansas City, the uncertainty. I know there's a little bit of uncertainty with D-Hop being out as well, but they got Hollywood Brown. He's a field stretcher. He's going to fit the Cardinals offense much better than the Ravens offense, I feel like. I mean, just because of the pure volume, they like to throw the ball downfield. Also, in the 46 games that Kyler Murray's played in, I mean, he has less than 5 rushing yards only 10 times. So if there's another one of those quarterbacks that could essentially get to that 101 spot, I think it's Kyler with the rushing, with the way that he can score touchdowns, the efficiency. Then I thought I got great value here with Trey Lance coming back to me in the second round. Easily one of those Jalen Hurts type players here, even without any sort of passing efficiency. He could get it done with his legs. In the couple of games, in the one game that he actually went off and he had I believe it was 16 carries for 89 yards. I mean, that's just a running back. It's just a running back in your quarterback spot. If he can add anything with his arm, he could easily slide up to that top 12 spot. We mentioned Jameis earlier. We really like the weapons. The Sean Payton isn't there, but his offense is still in place. Dennis Allen moves kind of right up. That's the same sort of system. All of their guys are still there. Still, it's the Saints. It's like this. It's one of those organizations that just puts out production. And Jameis is going to be their quarterback. And he didn't throw that many picks last year. He actually was pretty good when he was healthy, pushing the ball down the field with Lil Jordan Humphrey and whoever else the Saints had catching the ball.
Deontay Harris, Hardy Harris.
Deontay Harris, he'd come in, catch 3 balls for 100 yards, and then go away for like 3 years. Marquez Callaway, another guy. Okay, then round 4. I honestly think Davis Mills is the best pick out of that whole bottom 3. That whole bottom 3 rounds there. Like at the end of last season, he actually showed that he could score in the top 10 of fantasy points. He did it twice, I'm pretty sure, in the last 5 weeks with basically Brandon Cooks. They didn't draft a quarterback. They invested in John Mechie. Nico Collins is another potential breakout candidate if they actually want to pass the ball, and I'm sure they do because they don't have any good running backs. So I think that they're just going to put everything on Mills and see what they have here. We talked about Malik Willis. I mean, there's the tiniest percentage chance that what I said happens, but probably it's going to be Tannehill. And Matt Corral, I honestly, after Pickett, I thought he was the second best quarterback in that whole process there. I thought Carolina really got a steal in the 3rd round. The Baker trade kind of makes that a little tough, but hot take, Matt Corral might be the best quarterback in Carolina out of that whole group. So we might not know. I mean, Baker left a real bad taste in people's mouths, but last year, a full calendar year ago, he was in the AFC Championship game. The Browns were a good team, and he was a up and on the rise quarterback. So anything could change. I think he could get back, but as of right now, I kind of like the little bit of the unknown between those last 2 picks there. I really like this roster. I'd go to war with it.
Yeah, I like this a lot. You're right. I think for me, it's Daniel Jones, Mills, and Jared Goff. It's those 3 are they're like alert. You need a quarterback sort of quarterbacks. You know, they're like yeah. So if I can get either of those 3 in a best ball team, they're and I can however the stacks work out. You know. I usually shoot for one of those 3, and I feel pretty good with my quarterback group. And Davis Mills, he's gonna have the full year job. I think, to be honest, between those 3 that I just stated, Mills, Goff, and Daniel Jones, I'd argue that he's probably the one that their team has the most confidence in them going into this season. So at the very least, not that you really want any of these guys to be your starting quarterback for your team. Looking at you, Craig. But really, yeah, they for fantasy they're going to put up the points. They've got a little rushing to them, and that'll be that. Craig, go ahead, give me your draft.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna hype up Davis Mills too, you should probably mention Brevin Jordan, who finishes the top 12 tight end 4 out of the 9 weeks that he actually played last year, and he was the number 1 recruit out of high school over Kyle Anthony Pitts. So there is that too. I will say too, just going back to Tyler Huntley real quick too. I think if you're in Scott Fishbowl and you draft Lamar Jackson where you draft him, you should be drafting Tyler Huntley at the end of your draft to handcuff him, just in case, God forbid, something happens to Lamar again, so you don't have to drop 60% of your waiver budget 1 week just on Tyler Huntley.
Thank you for that advice. I'm one of those people.
And I think I mentioned that on our Sons of Dynasty podcast when we did the Scott Fishbowl primer for that as well. But mine was pretty simple. Patrick Mahomes, like, he's there at 5. He shouldn't be there at 5. Arguably the best quarterback in all of football. I know, like, the wide receiver options are kind of the hit or miss, but like there's guys that have had production. Sky Moore is a very, very, very good rookie. Aaron Rodgers, it's kind of the same thing. The wide receivers are kind of a question mark, but we've seen Aaron Rodgers do well with questionable wide receivers in the past. Those are both MVP picks, former MVPs. Mac Jones was arguably the best rookie quarterback last year. He gets a new weapon in Devontae Parker, who is a top 5 contested catch wide receiver. So that's definitely not going to hurt your quarterback by any means. Maybe Jonnu Smith does something this year, wakes up and does something. Jared Goff, we've seen Jared Goff be good before. If he plays behind a decent old line and gets time to throw the ball, he can be okay. So in fantasy, that's all you need. There's a ton of weapons around him. We got DeAndre Swift, we got TJ Hawkinson, we got Jameson Williams when he does eventually come back. DJ Chark, if he's healthy, he could be a field stretcher as well. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown look really, really well last year. And the big thing is last year too, their offensive line, they have a top 10 offensive line in the league. Frank Ragnow, an all-pro center, fractured his throat and didn't play most of the year last year. Taylor Decker was hurt most of the year. You're getting 2 Pro Bowlers back on that offensive line, and that's a big thing for their protection. If you can get Hawkinson and Swift to stay healthy alongside that, you're going to have a pretty good chance for a good quarterback there. Drew Lock, the biggest thing I'll say about him too is I think Pete Carroll wants Geno Smith to start. Geno Smith also got a DUI and might get suspended at the beginning of the year, so that could favor Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock offers more potential upside because we know what Geno Smith is at this point. Geno Smith is kind of like a Marcus Mariota. It's just kind of run around a little bit, complete some short passes. Locke can at least kind of push the ball downfield. Accuracy has always been the hit or miss thing with him. And then last but not least, Tyrod Taylor. Something happens to Daniel Jones, he gets hurt again. If he just sucks, like Tyrod Taylor's a capable backup, and they could just throw him in there too. And I can't remember if him and Dabo have overlapped 1 year in Buffalo or not. I could be wrong.
You know what I like about Goff too is now it looks like Ben Johnson, who is taking the lead as their offensive coordinator and was calling plays in the back half of the year when we're seeing Amon-Ra St. Brown go off. It looks like he's going to be calling plays again this year. So I'm actually kind of feeling a Goff breakout, only to the extent that Goff's limits take him. I'm not going to pretend that he's even in fantasy. I'm not going to pretend like he's a top 10 quarterback talent outside of fantasy. But with a good passing offense, with utilizing DeAndre Swift, actually getting him the targets that he needs and being on the field on a regular basis, getting your passes out and having a well-functioning offense, which was not quite the same case where you were running the ball down your throat with Jamal Williams starting a few games in the early part of the season. You're not going to get as much of that this year. We're hoping with Ben Johnson. And with that, you can see those numbers go up for Goff.
Oh, and their defense is still pretty terrible. So they're going to be in shootouts and have to play catch up.
They're a scrappy team, too. They will catch up. They covered in like 12 of their 16 games. I know the lines are a bit bigger than most of them, but I mean, still, she shows a lot about a team to cover that many times.
All right, Alex, go ahead and give us your draft.
All right, so started off with my boy Jalen Hurts, Did a full show last year with you, Mark, about him. But the situation got even better. The line's healthy again. He has, for the first time in his entire career, even going back through college, continuity with the coaching staff. Every year in college and up until this year, he's had a different combination of head coach and offensive coordinator. So he's not going to be learning a new system, which is massive for him. Not to mention Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman both said, hey, Jalen had influence on bringing in A.J. Brown. The relationship with them, A.J. Brown's daughter, Jalen Hurts, is her godfather. That's how close they were. He was at his draft party. They're best friends. Everyone talks about the Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp breakfast narrative. Let's bring on the Godfather narrative with Jalen Hurts this year. When things could break right, there is a good chance he puts up numbers eerily similar to 2019 MVP Lamar Jackson. Tom Brady, the GOAT. Nothing else needs to be said. Justin Fields, I was hoping for Tua, but got sniped on him. Fields has that upside this year with the legs, and Matt Nagy no longer being in the building. Right now, Mariota is a starter. Figured, hey, he's a good piece at this point in the draft. Brissett, who knows what's going to actually happen in Cleveland. Like we said earlier, you've heard everything from no suspension to a year-long indefinite and everything in between. And in Carolina, you got a fully open QB competition between Baker and Darnold. So why not get the guy that's the cheapest out of all the quarterbacks in Carolina?
I like that too. Yeah, I'm going to start calling my my AJ Brown Hurts stacks the Godfather stack.
The Godfather, absolutely.
I like that. I like that a lot. And yeah, it's really hard to go to bat for Justin Fields, but you feel like with the rushing, he's still just going to be all right. You know, like he's gonna be all right to get his nut for you on your fantasy team, like no problem. But yeah, but if you want to make the argument for it, you have nothing. You got nothing to say.
No, there is a valid argument. Last year, the final 4 games of the season, he was a top 12 quarterback in a crappy offense led by Matt Nagy. So there is upside there.
Yes, Craig, make that argument for me. I appreciate it.
Yes. Burner, my man, give it to me.
Let me break it down for you fellas. So first of all, okay, it was an auto pick, but it would have been my pick anyways. It just fell that way. Joe Burrow, man. Here you have a guy who last year, still wearing the knee brace, still coming off the ACL, right? Threw 3,400 yards. No, 4,600 yards, 34 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, okay? And this is a guy who was league-high sacked 51 times. And they have made some absolute investments in that offensive line. He is healthy now. He has shed the knee brace. I mean, he finished at what, QB7? You know, there's no reason he doesn't finish in the top 4. That touchdown upside goes up. He's got all the talent around him. Yeah. So I think getting him at 7 is a steal. And you got Russ, man. I feel like when he was with Pete Carroll, it was like a golden corral. You know, he's just putting food out there, and he's like, "Let me cook," and he's like, "Nah, just put this on the line, dude." And then Gordon Ramsay came in, swooped him up. Now he's in charge of his own 5-star restaurant because he's going to cook. He's got weapons. Okay, they were willing to move Noah Fant. They were willing to move Drew Lock. You know, big pieces moving. But I really think that there in Denver, we're going to see the Russ we've always wanted to see. He's still got the rushing upside. Tua, you know, he's going to hit him with a yak attack like we already talked about. I mean, it's going to be a beautiful thing. I took Kenny Pickett over Mitch Trubisky because at the end of the day, I would just rather have the upside of Kenny Pickett over Mitch Trubisky because it's still Mitch Trubisky. And then Jimmy G, you know, with the rumors that I'm sure, you know, most have heard about of maybe Seattle being interested. That'd be cool to see because if he goes up, he's starting and, you know, he's got weapons up there already in place. And Bailey Zappi. I mean, let's just imagine something, God forbid, happens to Mac Jones, okay? 6,000 yards, 62 touchdowns, most prolific passer in college football history. In round 6, I'll take a shot at it.
I can see that. I mean, I can't see Mac Jones getting hurt. I think they're going to do everything they can to protect his ass. But really, Bailey Zappi, he feels like a Belichick. He feels like a Belichick quarterback, doesn't he? Like a guy that he'll just like come into 2 games and he'll still have like 3 touchdowns somehow, just because you're not expecting him to throw a Philly special or something like that. It feels like he was a real game manager out there. But I can see that. I like Joe Burrow. The one thing for me is like, can the rushing upside get him into one of those top 3-4 spots that like you get from a Lamar or from Kyler or anything like that. But yeah, I think Joe Burrow's Joe Burrow right there. He's still in that top gold tier for me. And love the Tua pick. You know I'm on the other side of the Trubisky argument, but I do love the Tua pick. And really, ultimately, you need to pick one or the other. There's nothing wrong with you picking either of them at that point. You still don't know what's going to happen until they actually declared the starter. So really, it's as much as I like Trubisky more, like Pickett's still a guy that I would target in that range. Let's go, Jim. Finally, Jim Nastic. Go ahead, give us your draft.
All right, so obviously, Burner was there before me, giving me little screws to me a little bit. I took Stafford. I like him. He's automatic. I think he's going to be on the high end of passing attempts. I know he was on the high end of the interceptions last year, but he's damn well pretty much a lock between 4,200 damn well near 5,000 yards. 37 to 41, 42 touchdowns, something like that. I like him. Everyone, if you're going to be taking his weapons, Cooper Kupp pretty high as the wide receiver 1 still in drafts. The guy throwing him the ball has to be somewhat efficient, giving it to him anyway. Besides that, I really want to Burrow, but besides that. So then I'm going to take Dak Prescott. He has sneaky rushing upside, right? His first 3 years in the league with the 6 touchdowns on the ground every year. Dialed it back a little bit with a 3. Losing Amari Cooper might be a little bit more designed on him running a little bit more, but you still got an ultimate weapon in CeeDee Lamb. I was really on the pushing for that. That was a big choice for me between if I was going to take Dak or Russ there. Tyler already talked about Trevor Lawrence pretty extensively earlier on. I mean, this guy, bad taste in your mouth, I guess, for Urban Meyer, but like he said, it was a consensus 1. Now he's got Doug Peterson walking in there. I can't really talk too much more about what he's already took about there. 4 and 5 I'll talk about because 6 was just a total auto pick, but Trubisky, I think, for sure starts the first 4 games. I see in a situation where he's probably starting majority of the year. That's just me, and I don't really believe in Kenny Pickett to begin with. And then Ritter for me is more of setting up for a next year at that point. Just looking at the guys that you're going to be taking swings with. Drew Lock might not have a job. Jordan Love, I don't know if he can even hit a tire swing. Tyler Huntley, I really like, but I hoped he would come back. Brissett, you're looking at this year as bridge gaps, right? So at that point, looking at pretty much just bridge gap quarterbacks for this year. Now I'm looking at potentially a next year guy that might be able to gain value. That's Ritter, because Craig was saying he's going to be starting probably, if he does this year, it'll be back end, right around that fantasy playoff team time where your entire league's looking. So if he gives you some good weeks that week, even if you're not in it, value's going to go up, and you could probably flip them and get a decent quarterback in next year's draft where, they're decent, at least a lot better than this year's draft. So, and then, Bray was total auto pick because I was spacing out because, I'm a fryback. I apologize.
Hey, whatever gets you there, Jim. And you know what? You got depth for days on this team, so we're not even gonna worry about it. before we sign off here, Emily's got a question here. Do we think Taysom Hill has any chance to do any QB things this year? For me, particularly, I think no. I think that died with the Sean Payton era. And at the very best, he would just be a sap to Jameis Winston. Anybody else have a different point of view there?
Maybe for a couple Philly specials, but other than that,
He's not even running with the quarterbacks, is he?
No,
I don't think he is. I think he's fully tight end, and I think in a lot of fantasy circles he's only tight end. So pour one out for Taysom Hill's value. Sorry, Emily. Let's see, Jim. Go ahead and give everybody where they can find you.
Oh yeah, so you can find me at Twitter at GoldJacketQBs. DMs are usually open if you got something you want to talk to me about. Run the show with my buddy Connor on Thursdays. Just got off before I jumped on this one, and then half-written articles that by the time I get to after yelling at my kids, they're obsolete. So, I mean, look out for me in your fantasy leagues. I guess would be the best spot too. But thanks for having me on.
Love it. Love it. Always having you on. And again, we hope to see you again in fantasy football. Alex, Matteo, give it to him.
Hey, Mark, I appreciate you having me on again. So all three shows have been a blast, to say the least. You can find me with my written content over at Dynasty Nerds. And you can catch me Thursdays is when we upload the videos to YouTube and the Apple Podcast. Doing the Tripwire show through Triple Play Fantasy. Right now, we're just going through Dynasty buy sells for the off season, but in season will be Monday nights bringing you waiver wire stuff.
I love it. I've been known to check out that Tripwire podcast for waivers every once in a while here. And we always love having you on. It's a blast when you're here, to be honest, Alex. I gotta be honest. That's why we have you back all the time. And another one we brought back, Josh Valentin. Josh, go ahead and give them where they can find you.
Usually hanging around on Twitter at RealFantasyTL, but honestly, follow my co-host Drew at dr_pra. He's the brains of the fantasy timeline, which is on every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I just say reckless stuff, and then he comes with actual stats and knowledge of the game. So that's where I'm at. I'm either on Twitter or on YouTube. Find me there, willing to talk to anyone about pretty much anything.
Love it. Again, happy to have you on anytime you want, Josh. Coach Craig, I feel like I used you as a punching bag a little bit tonight, buddy. I apologize for that, but we always love having you. Let us know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. You can find me on YouTube at Coach Craig Sports. Right now, it's MLB DFS is my main focus. So I have daily core pick videos coming out. I do daily MLB DFS cheat sheets for FanDuel over at WeBetATS.com. Do some media stuff with Sons of Dynasty. Yeah, Sons of Dynasty. Do the show with Justin. And there's probably 10 million other things. Do some stuff with True North, and then it looks like Julian and I will be running back the point after either Friday or Saturday night during the season as well.
Excellent. I'd love to come back on if you're willing to have me sometime this year. And let me tell you, if you have not checked out the JC Money and Coach Craig Sports, though, both of those guys are DFS monsters, and it doesn't matter what does not matter what the sport. They've got it locked in. So make sure if you're really if you're watching, if you're going to your brother-in-law's house and you're watching NASCAR and you don't know anything about NASCAR, check out JC Money and Coach Craig. They got you, and you can play a little DFS and make it a little fun. Bond with your brother-in-law a little bit. Always a pleasure to have you on, Tyler Lamb. Go ahead and let them know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Lamb4752. You can also find Stadium Rant at Stadium Rant HQ. That's the company that basically presented my website, Gillette Gazette. You can find that on Facebook at Gillette Gazette for any and all Patriots articles. And thank you so much for having me on the show. Really enjoyed it. You guys are awesome. You guys are basically my people. So.
Guys, it's been an absolute blast. We love having new people on the show. We love having people who've already been here on the show. We just love coming out and drafting. We want to make it feel like draft day, every week here on Primetime Mock. My buddy Shuey at Shuey_FF and Clayton Stoneburner at Burner of Stone. I'm Mark Shue at Primetime Mock. You can find me on Twitter there. You can find the Fantasy Football sign up on my Twitter. I'm going to have this at this point now. It will be tweeted and it will be pinned to my Twitter timeline to get yourself signed up for Fantasy Football reality competition. We're looking at a $5,000 prize to first place this year, which we're really excited about. So for all of us here at Primetime Fantasy Network, for all the guys here on the panel tonight, great work. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Hey, thanks for having me.